Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. Shah and I make videos about medicine, lifestyle as a family medicine resident, and just general medical education topics. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about blood pressure. So before we begin, I just want to make sure that it's clear that this is not medical advice. If you have any questions, please ask your doctor. This is purely for education purposes. With having said that, so let's get right into it. So today we're going to be talking about hypertension. So what is hypertension? Hypertension basically means that you have high blood pressure. Blood pressure is measured by two elements. So you have the systolic and the diastolic pressure. What does that even mean? What is blood pressure? So blood pressure is measured by two elements. Okay, so you have the systolic and the diastolic. The systolic tends to be the top number and the diastolic is the bottom number. So what does that even mean? So systolic is the amount of pressure that the arteries produce when the heart contracts. Okay, so at the time of a heartbeat, the amount of pressure that it takes for the heart to contract. And the diastolic pressure is the pressure in the arteries when the heart is relaxing between beats. Okay, so systolic contracts, diastolic dilate. So that's the amount of pressure. So that tells us it's usually reported as systolic over diastolic. Got that? All right. So why is this even important? This is important because if you have untreated blood pressure, it creates an increased amount of strain in the heart, the arteries, and eventually it can cause all types of organ damage, all right? So having high blood pressure actually increases the risk of heart failure. It can increase the risk of myocardial infarction, aka a heart attack, or even kidney failure, or all of the above. So this is what's really important to understand what the heck high blood pressure even is. So what are some things that cause an increase in your blood pressure? So while the exact cause is kind of unclear, there are several factors that contribute to having an increase in blood pressure. So the first thing is age. So as we get older, the risk of having high blood pressure naturally increases. That's something that happens to everybody, all right? The other thing is that being obese, being overweight and having obesity increases your risk of having high blood pressure. If you have a family history of hypertension, so if you have relatives that currently have or have had hypertension, that puts you at a higher risk of also having high blood pressure. Consuming a lot of salt or sodium into your diet also increases your risk of having blood pressure, all right? Another thing is drinking lots of alcohol. Also, just generally tending to be more sedentary or just not being able to get a lot of physical activity. These are all things that can increase your risk of having high blood pressure. So how do you know if you have high blood pressure? Are there any symptoms? So unfortunately, not really. Having high blood pressure doesn't really have any symptoms. So you might actually feel fine, but you're not actually fine, if that makes sense. Because you can't really tell. There's not really any distinct symptoms that high blood pressure presents itself with. So how do we treat it? So having untreated hypertension can lead to a lot of different complications. It can lead to a stroke, it can lead to heart disease. A lot of these complications increase as your blood pressure increases above 115/75. Even though that's still kind of in the normal range, studies have shown that that's actually where you start to have an increased risk of having that. Again, this really depends. It's person by person, case by case. That might be too low for you. You really want to talk to your doctor and see what the right blood pressure range is for you, because it really varies. So just keep that in mind. But in general, that is what it usually is. So why do we want to treat it? Because obviously, if you treat it, it's going to decrease your risk of having a stroke, decrease your risk of having a heart attack, and even dying. So these are really good reasons to treat your blood pressure. Some people are like, what are some lifestyle changes? Well, some lifestyle changes are decrease the amount of salt that you're taking in, all right? It might be a little bit of an adjustment initially, but that can really help decrease your blood pressure. Lose some weight if you're overweight or have obesity, that's one way of decreasing your risk factors. Avoid drinking too much alcohol. You need to cut down on that alcohol to help with that blood pressure. Cutting down on alcohol will naturally decrease your risk of having high blood pressure. Stop smoking. Smoking has a lot of negative impact, and another impact that can have is causing high blood pressure. So if you want to decrease your risk of having high blood pressure, cut down on smoking. You also want to exercise at least 30 minutes per day on most days of the week. And I know that might be tough for a lot of people, but we can carve out 30 minutes at least 3 times a week to begin with. So these are some ways they can decrease your risk of having high blood pressure. So now you've tried all this stuff. What are some other things that we can do? So your doctor might prescribe you some medicines. Like, medicines are a fantastic way to lower your blood pressure, and they've actually shown a lot of benefits. We'll go through the different types of high blood pressure medicine that are available in another video. So I hope this was really helpful. I hope you guys are liking this new series or new approach, just talking about common things that would be helpful for people to know or what to do and just live a better, healthier life. If you guys like that, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.